Welcome to our vast swaths of listeners. This is Aaron and Alex's Lord of the Ring podcast, where we just discuss things that have to do with Lord of the Rings. But one key difference between us and all the other Lord of the Rings podcasts that you listen to, we do it while eating food that is shaped like rings.
Mm-hmm. We call this Lord of the Rings while eating ring-shaped foods. It's a working title, actually. We're workshopping it. So
say it with me, listeners.
Lord of the Rings while eating ring-shaped foods. So it rolls off the tongue.
Alex, would you describe what's in front of you right now?
Well, okay. Actually, I can swing this. So what's in front of me today is orange. And you might be thinking to yourself, an orange, that's like a sphere at best. That's not a ring. But I've arranged the pieces in a ring fashion, like a ring order. And so that will serve as my ring-shaped food today. In addition to that, I also have a Hostess cupcake. And to the astute listener, viewer, they'll know that the Hostess cupcake has little curlicues, which are kind of rings.
That's true. I'm looking at it now and I'm seeing that. I was going to say that it's one step closer to a ring than a sphere in that it's a circle, but doesn't have its center cut out. But yeah, there are many rings on it. 1, 2, 3,
I'm noticing
4,
that it
5,
has
6,
7
7
curlicues. Looking at you, dwarves.
Me, I've got a gourmet spread in front of me.
He has the silverware and everything.
I have a mini plate, a mini fork, a regular-sized knife, and an even minier donut. From 7-Eleven, our favorite place. We've got 4 of them around us. This one is from the corner of Home Ave and Gateway?
Yeah.
There you go. For all your donut needs.
We love that we're giving the location where our listeners too can get donuts
It's
that
true.
we are eating as well.
This is our most important contribution to the world.
Well, true. We do plan with each new episode to eat another ring-shaped food, which is what sets us apart from the rest. Actually, though, to speak on that, I think I can speak for you on this too. I listen to a lot of content about Lord of the Rings on YouTube, but it tends to be less speculative stuff and more just like recounting what's in the writing, right? Where it's like
explanation.
Sure. Of like, okay, this is the story of, the ring wraiths, or like reactions to, whoa, what did Sauron get up to in the First Age or something like that. And so, which I love that content. I probably listen to it daily. But I think we would like to offer something different.
For sure. We shall definitely speculate a lot on this channel. For example, one of the ideas that we will be presenting in a later podcast is which characters from Lord of the Rings should have ended up together.
Oh, I have some hot takes on this. So prepare your bodies for that. But yeah, as far as future podcasts, you can expect many fun ideas, fun episodes. But today, Aaron, why don't you share with our dear listeners what we're going to be talking about?
Absolutely. Today, we're going to be talking about what we would like to see in the upcoming Amazon series regarding the Second Age of Middle-earth. So we've got a list of a couple things laid out, but we've also got a timeline of most events of the Second Age that we can just kind of jump through and talk about if we've ever heard about it and want to see it, or if not.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to preface about it, because I think for many people that are familiar with Lord of the Rings, like I think a lot of people have seen the movies. However, most people might not be aware that there is a full mythology that came before what happens in the movies, The Lord of the Rings, and it all takes place in the Silmarillion. In fact, The Hobbit, which was also turned into movies, is not a great prequel to
Correct.
prequel. It doesn't really serve as a prequel to.
Oh, I thought you were saying the movies are not good, which is also true.
Ooh. I mean, I didn't like them, but they don't serve as a good prequel because that's not really what The Hobbit was intended to be. It was written before all of the mythology was written, and so, in truth, like the prequel to the movies, like the Lord of the Rings movies, is the Silmarillion. And so it's really cool that they're, we're getting the opportunity to see some of those stories. It's a little dry at times in the Silmarillion.
Yeah, I think of the Silmarillion as the Bible of Tolkien's world. And sometimes in the Bible, you just get a full page of genealogy of who begat who.
That also happens in the Silmarillion.
Yeah. So there is some dryness. There's also some epicness in it, like on a way grander scale than even the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know who our viewership is going to be. Listenership? Perhaps our listeners will know that there is a bigger bad than Sauron. But I think maybe the typical moviegoer might not be aware that Sauron is not the big bad. Sauron is like a servant of the big bad.
Yeah.
And I think that this Amazon series is an opportunity to bring these incredible stories that flesh out the world that Tolkien created in a way that they would have never accessed.
Definitely. Yeah, so Alex, you mentioned that the Lord of the Rings trilogy takes place in the Third Age of Middle-earth. The Amazon series will take place in the Second Age, which, as I'm sure you can all guess or already know, there is also a First Age of Middle-earth.
There are ages before that as well.
Exactly. But to get into specifically what we're talking about today, I think this is a good transition because I would be so interested to see, although I'm not super hopeful to see it because this would be crazy, the transition from the First Age into the Second Age.
Remind me what happens there?
So at the end of the First Age, it's very short compared to the Second and Third ages. I think it's like 550 years, something like that.
Isn't there some weirdness because years were different when counted during the years of the trees?
Yes, but that's all before the First Age.
So right. Continue.
So the First Age ends with the big bad guy, Melkor, being banished, destroyed, defeated by the Valar, who are basically the emissaries of the one god of Middle-earth, Eru Ilúvatar. And when the Valar defeat Melkor, a big portion of the world that all of these characters are living in, known as Beleriand at the time, is destroyed, just like wiped off the face of the planet because of this cataclysmic battle between these godly forces. And basically that defeat of the big bad guy kicks off the beginning of the Second Age. And there's a ton of crazy stuff. For instance, you've got Eärendil, who sails out of Middle-earth, which is where all of the mortal and some of the immortal elves are dwelling during the First Age. And he sails over to the west to what's the word I'm looking for? Basically plead
petition?
Petition to the Valar for help because everything's going to bleep and Melkor is just
can
like
we not afford
destroying people.
In post, can we not afford to bleep ourselves? Or that's actually a good thing to.
We'll have to explore that. I don't know.
Is this a cussing podcast?
Good question.
Sometimes it just slips out of me.
I'm sure we can find bleeps. Anyway, so What I said, Eärendil goes and sails west to get the help of the Valar, and then they like bless his ship that he sailed to find them on, and now the ship can fly, and so he flies with these giant eagles into battle
Are they
with
the same
all
giant
of the
eagles?
Valar. Maybe previous generations
Mm.
than what we see in Lord of the Rings.
Related.
Yeah,
They're Manway's eagles.
and they go to fight all the evil forces of Melkor, including his dragons, including the largest dragon of all time,
And Calagon
the
the
Black. and he beats him. He beats Calagon the Black. And this is just like, is he a half elf, half human?
I thought he was an elf. He's reborn, right?
No. I don't believe so.
All right.
I don't remember. Anyway, he's like, cannot be taller than 7 feet. And in his flying ship, he kills a massive dragon.
Yeah. I mean, that's a super dope story. This is the same Eärendil as like the star,
Mm-hmm.
which Aaron and I have spoken about before, and there's like so many cool things about that story of him sailing through the sky and defeating Calagon, and then that having to do, or like that mirroring Samwise Gamgee fighting Shelob with the same star.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The world that Tolkien created is so incredible, and that battle is super duper cool. I think an important question, or not a question, but like one of the things that's different about the way that they keep time is like, how are the ages marked? Well, the ages are marked by important events and shifts in the world, and so like Aaron was saying, Beleriand was destroyed after the battle with Morgoth. And so, too, at the end of the Second Age, there is a reshaping of the world that marks the end of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to actually the first thing that I hope we see in the Amazon series. Are we ready to move into that portion?
Yeah,
All right.
do it.
Cool. So my number one thing that I want to see, I don't know if it's my number one thing. Now I've wrote
First on the list.
First on my list. I think that's super cool. So what marks the end of the Second Age is the fall of one of the last king of the Numenor. His name is Ar-Pharazôn. This individual was a very powerful king, and he was mighty. He did a lot of incredible things in Numenor. The big bad in Lord of the Rings, Sauron, he didn't defeat him in battle, but he like went right up to the Black Gate and challenged him to battle, and all of his orcs fled. Sauron essentially said, like, I surrender, and went back with Ar-Pharazôn to Numenor, which was this island. And through the course of having Sauron imprisoned, Ar-Pharazôn fell to corruption and did a lot of terrible things, creating a temple to Morgoth, doing sacrifices, and in any case, he dooms the Numenor, like all the Numenorians. But what finishes the age is when he takes his fleet to the Valar.
Doesn't actually finish the age.
I thought, yeah.
It leads to a cataclysmic event, but the age continues all the way until Sauron's second defeat, when the ring is cut off from his finger.
Is that true?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I could have sworn that the restructuring of the world marked the end, but that kind of makes sense. Like with a big battle ending it.
You feel like it would, though.
Yeah.
It's a big enough event to mark that.
Okay. Well, scratch that it ends the second age, but I still want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would capture that on film, but essentially, all right, Ar-Pharazôn takes his fleet to go not to petition the Valar, but to fight the Valar. He says, "I want to be immortal, and I'm going to take that by force, I guess." And so he takes his fleet over to the Valar, which they live on Arda in Valinor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Valinor. The Valar are not about it, and they sink Ar-Pharazôn's fleet, and Ar-Pharazôn dies. Sad. But in addition to that, they also sink Numenor. So that entire civilization of powerful, enlightened humans just gone.
Yes. So Numenor is an island, and don't think like a small Caribbean island. Think like Australia island,
Huge.
and it's just freaking wiped out. The whole thing goes under sea.
You know, like certainly some Numenorians had been able to escape. Some of them had moved to Middle Earth already, and some of them, I think, had already succumbed to Sauron's influence and become the Black Numenorians. So they were already in the know to escape.
Yeah. So kind of what we both were talking about that we would like to see in the series also makes me nervous if we were to see them, because one thing that I love about how Peter Jackson handled the Lord of the Rings trilogy was how real it all seemed.
Right.
That it all could have been. It's not quite as fantastical as the books might read at times.
Yeah.
Less whimsical, more like actually scary, terrifying, like you could see these things existing. And so there are certain events in the Silmarillion and throughout Tolkien's works that are hard to picture in the same style of cinema. And I think these huge, crazy cataclysmic events, like the ending of the First Age where a dragon is killed and falls on a mountain and breaks the entire mountain and half of the world is wiped off of the planet. Like it's hard to picture those on screen without being fantastical to a certain degree.
Yeah. I mean, especially because part of the Valar leave Arda when Ar-Pharazôn does what he does. And when they leave, they also restructure the world so that it is no longer flat, but it is now a sphere.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how you capture that on film. However, there's the straight path that they leave just for the elves to get back. And that's such an important moment that sets up, you know, the relationship of the elves to the Valar and the relationship of the humans to the Valar, where, you know, Numenorians were blessed with incredible longevity and insight and all of that, you know, those gifts. And through poor leadership and through Sauron's influence, they fell from that greatness to the point where it's like, well, I don't exactly know how many years deficient from, yeah. But, you know, it gets to the point where down the line, when you get to Aragorn, I think he only lives to be like, 180 or something like that.
I don't even know if it's that long.
Numenorians lived a super long time, but because of their leadership, they ended up, I mean, all dying, but they gradually lost their longevity.
Yeah. And part of their longevity, like you said, came from just like being blessed by the Valar on like when the civilization began. But also their first king, coming back to Eärendil, his two sons were Elros and Elrond.
Ooh, here we go. Is this your one? The first on your list?
Well, that I want to see in the series.
Yeah.
No, the first was the transition from First to Second Age.
Okay, got it.
But that's just kind of wishful thinking. This second one is actually a possibility. So, Elrond. We see Elrond in the Lord of the Rings trilogy right?
He's
He-
fit.
He's fit.
he doesn't
He's
look
looking
old.
good. He's keeping it tight. And so
He's keeping it tight.
So-
In what way?
he just looks young.
That's true.
Doesn't have wrinkles.
No, I think he has some laugh lines.
Or frown lines.
He was so sad.
Okay, so Elrond is like thousands of years old by the time we see him in Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
But he and his brother Elros, like I said, are the two sons of Eärendil. They were given the choice, because they were half elven, half human, to either live the immortal life of elves or live the mortal life of humans, and like which kind of kinship they're going to bind themselves to.
Yeah, they don't get to have both.
So Elros, the first king of Numenor, chose to live a human life, a mortal life. Elrond chose to live an immortal elf life. And Elros, he lives like, I don't know, 500 years himself
Mm-hmm.
during the establishment of Numenor. And then so he, like, his lineage kind of contributes to the longevity of the kings and queens of Numenor, and also just kind of the general population. But yeah, like you said, that kind of diminishes as it goes on, and by the time we get to Aragorn, it's nowhere near that length.
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made that, like, maybe it's just because more and more humans are introduced into that lineage, like they don't keep it in the family, so to speak, which maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But in addition to that, like the practices of the Numenorians, where for a long time the kings and queens took elven or elvish names like Quenya, but at a certain point they switched to Anduik. I don't know how to pronounce it.
True, I don't either.
They choose a human language to name themselves after, and they just get farther and farther away from the blessings of the Valar. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm into. In any case, to get back to Elrond and Elros, what are the things that you want to see in this show about the two brothers?
You say what are the things I want to see?
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, just the fact that they're related to Eärendil, who's kind of like one of the key figures in the entire history of the universe. That's important. Although they got kidnapped when they were little and probably didn't know him super well. But
Rough.
yeah, so I think, first of all, just like seeing who Elros is as a character, because I feel like I don't know much about him other than that he was this great king, great leader who abided by the rule of the Valar and led his people into prosperity. But that's pretty much all I know about him. And I wonder if the two brothers like saw each other frequently when they were living in different
Yeah, I don't think it was
lands.
spoken about very much in the Silmarillion, other
Mhm.
than, Elros, King of Numenor, Elrond, Rivendell,
Yeah.
important
Although
figure.
that might have been established later. I'm not sure. Imladris in the elven tongue.
See, we read.
That's another thing that will distinguish this podcast from others. You know, a lot of people out there, they can speak authoritatively on these issues. Like, they've done the research and they remember and write out scripts.
There are professors of this stuff.
Like, I listen to this stuff and it goes in one ear and my brain's like, that's super cool. I want to remember that. And then it goes out the other ear. And then it'll get brought up again and I'm like, oh, I remember hearing about that.
I think that makes us fans.
Something like this happened.
I think that's
So take this with a grain of salt.
It's okay. We're good fans of.
We're good friends.
We are good friends, and also fans of Lord of the Rings. It's just so good. Elrond and Elros. I often, it comes up in conversation with Aaron where I'm like, Elrond is such a sad character, and I don't know if you agree with me. But part of him living for so long is that he just gets to see so much, and that contributes to his wisdom, and he's a great leader, yada yada. But I want to imagine him not as this alien figure like some of the other elves appear to be. Like Galadriel is alien when she appears in the book. Like she doesn't relate to others like a human. She chooses to telepathically speak with them, and I don't know. She's cold and aloof, powerful and beautiful, but not a human. Oh, he's digging into this donut
with knife and fork.
But I want to believe that Elrond, even though he did make the choice to be immortal, that he still has these human emotions in him. And how sad would it be to watch as your brother chooses immortal life, and you know that you are going to outlive him? I mean, unless you die in battle, but he didn't. And two, Elrond has to present that to his daughter as well. Like he doesn't want his daughter to choose mortality. And so I just feel like Elrond is a very lonely character, and that can be, we can see a different side, but the establishment of that sadness in Elrond in this show, that's so good.
Yeah. Tugs at the heartstrings for sure.
Yeah, that's what I think that this show will be able to bring to the Silmarillion, which it's missing, is that human element of it's not just that this person begat this person. There are like true human stories in this writing, similar to the Bible.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that intrigues me as well, and I want to talk about more. But the last thing that I'll briefly mention, kind of in this same realm as the previous things that we've talked about, in terms of its fantasticalness, is I'm curious to see how things were built with magic. For instance, Sauron using the power of his ring to build Barad-dûr, whose foundations were impossible to destroy without destroying the ring itself. Like what does that look like during the construction process? Like that's something that's hard to envision IRL.
IRL. Yeah. That's a good point. He is a Maya of Maiar. What is the correct way? Is Maya plural?
I think Maiar is singular.
Yeah, Maiar is. Jeez. Yes, he is a Maiar and serves Melkor, but originally served Aule, the smith, and that is present in his character, that he forges, he creates, he builds, he corrupts things too. I don't think that. One of the best explanations I've seen on this is like the writing that appears on the One Ring. It's not like he doesn't. All of his orcs speak the black speech or the deep speech, but that's not the speech that appears on the ring. No, the speech that appears on the ring is Tengwar. Like he didn't have the ability to create his own beautiful language.
What is that? What's Tengwar?
Tengwar? I thought that was another Elvish script.
I'd believe it. The script is Elvish. The words that the sound that those scripts would produce is this black speech.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So he used the script to create. He wasn't able to create a script himself.
Correct.
Okay. Well, there you go. That still is in line with what I was saying.
Yeah.
That he's able to craft and build. But that is interesting. But Barad-dûr, the Ring of Power was granted Sauron the ability to create this impossibly tall tower, which I think rivaled the height of Mount Doom.
Yeah. Another subject that you had mentioned being really excited about that kind of gets into exploring. Could you call it humanity in this instance? Is Anatar, the Lord of Gifts.
Yes. Oh, Good. May I introduce this one?
Of course.
Okay. So when we see Sauron in Lord of the Rings, he has already lost his ability to shapeshift. What? Sauron can shapeshift? Yes, in fact, he can. He's taken many different forms. One of those forms being this beautiful, I guess, high elf by the name of Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. He presents to the Noldor, and I think that Gil-galad is like not about it.
Yep.
Um,
He doesn't know why, but he's suspicious.
he's got a feeling. This guy, he's just not right. In any case, Anatar presents himself and says, I would like to give you the gift of ringcraft. And a few in the bunch say yes, one of those being Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor learns the art of ringcraft from Anatar, which, as I'm saying this, it feels very like history lesson, very dry. This is important because...
Stick with us, people.
Stick with us. There are 3 elven rings of power that were created by Celebrimbor outside the knowledge of Sauron. And these appear in Lord of the Rings. They are the 3 elven rings worn by Galadriel, Gandalf, and Celeborn? No, Elrond. In any case, that process of Anatar, because Sauron is a deceiver, he learned that from his old master Melkor, or Morgoth, that the best way to get what you want and to hold dominion over mankind and elvenkind is to trick them. And so he gets all tricky and says, I'm going to teach these people how to create rings. And this is what's presented in the first Lord of the Rings movie, like during the prologue, essentially, or the opening, where Galadriel talks about these rings of power that were created, 9 for men, 7 for dwarves. There were 3 elven rings of power, and then there was Sauron's ring of power that he created last, that connected all 9, or 9, 7, I can't math, that connected them.
Was this all before his excursion in Numenor?
Yeah, that was before.
Okay.
Yeah, the ring rings, I believe, were created before the fall of Numenor.
Got it. So all these rings were created. Oh, yes. The elves find him out, and then that's when kind of all of Middle-earth goes to fight Sauron and his army, and that's when he is, quote-unquote, defeated.
Yeah. Now, I have a question. Are the rings of power anything like the Horcruxes? Like, did Sauron invest some of his soul into these rings?
That's a great question. The answer, I believe, is no, other than his one ring.
Okay.
Because at least the 3 elven rings were never touched by Sauron.
That's right.
That's why when he put his on, they were able to be uncorrupted.
I think something silly, just a silly observation, is that the 7 rings for the dwarves, it didn't corrupt them really. It didn't make them followers of Sauron. It just made them greedy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Because they're so stubborn in their nature that they're not going to be like corrupted to be servants of someone else. They just are going to be, I want more gold and mithril.
We're gonna dig too deep. We're gonna find the Balrog. Wait, does that happen in the Second Age?
I do not think so.
No. We're talking about Durin's Bane.
Yeah. I think that's during the Third Age.
We'll get back to you on that. But I would love to see that. They dug too deep. Down into the foundations of the earth.
Yeah, I believe it is. And that's kind of why Balin and his party go back into Moria or Khazad-dûm to try and reestablish it and see if it's safe again. Anyway, Tangent again.
Yeah.
Another thing. Sorry, was there more that you wanted to?
I
talk
think
about
that I'm not exactly sure exactly what I want to see in that, other than, hey, the ring creation takes place during the Second Age,
Mm-hmm.
and we've only heard about that in reference and in prologue, and so it would be neat to have a greater picture. And I think one thing that I do want to see is that it's not obvious that it's Sauron. I would I would like for, even though I know as a viewer, I would like for, Bob and Karen, your average Netflix watcher, who has not read The Silmarillion, to get that experience of also being tricked by Anatar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I hope that they don't present him in a way that's like, ooh, this guy's sus. Like,
I am evil.
It's like, I can see that he's charming the other people, but based on the way that he's being presented in the story, I know something's up with that guy. I hope that doesn't happen.
No.
I would love for it to be like, oh man,
even make Gil-galad,
this is the purest guy. He's so generous and kind and like,
because we are also
giving.
humans, so they should be able to trick us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even more so than anyone else. Like,
Exactly.
we're way dumber than they were back then.
Back when?
Back when the Numenorians lived.
I feel you.
This is our history.
This is our history. What are we in, the Fourth Age? Fifth Age? In any case, yeah, I think that that's the aspect that I would like to see in regards to the rings, is that, like, who is this beautiful, like, incredible, generous character that only, like, maybe not only, but Gil-galad fears and is like, I don't know, but the rest of everybody is like, yeah, let's accept this gift.
Mm-hmm.
His intention was not to trick them forever. It was just to trick them with the creation of the rings. So that's what I want to see.
Yeah. Another thing that came up as I was scrolling through this timeline of the Second Age was, I would love to see, and this is kind of in the middle / end. It's like in the second half of the Second Age. Things are going downhill in Numenor, and like, they're basically Satan worshippers, Melkor worshippers at this point, and
he's the
like,
Satan adjacent character.
And the faithful are seeing what's happening, and so some of the faithful are Elendil and Isildur.
Is it the
Elendil's
same?
son. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's the same. Yeah, so this must be actually at the very end of the Second Age, because what happens is, I'm trying to remember if they got a tip or just had a hunch that Sauron, as the king's advisor at this time, would want to destroy this sacred white tree.
Oh my god!
Which is an offspring of one of the two trees which gave
wasn't
light to
there
the
was
whole
like
planet.
a seed or something.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So there was this tree that they assumed that Sauron was going to destroy, rightfully so. And so Isildur and the knight snuck into where the tree was, got like a seedling or sapling or something from it, and snuck it off over to Middle-earth when they escaped from Numenor. Which is great because I think they destroyed the tree like the next day after that.
Yeah.
And so that tree is the one, or the lineage, that survives all the way until the end of the Third Age in Minas Tirith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very important. And it comes from, basically, so the trees, the two trees during the years of the trees before the First Age, were kind of like the sun and moon equivalent at that time. They like bathed the earth in their soft light. And yeah, so light kind of represented the goodness and the contentness of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that tree that was born from the same lineage of those holy sacred trees is a big deal. And it could have been extinct if Isildur had not rescued it that night from Numenor.
Yeah.
That'd be great to see.
It would, yeah, that would be great. I love the aspect of lineage that takes place, which is, it feels biblical, where there's like, okay, look at how this line of people, Isildur's heir, reestablishes the line of kings. That's Aragorn, and with that, the tree blossoms again, that sort of thing. This tree is very important because of its lineage. It's related to the silver tree,
Telperion. Yeah.
Telperion. Wow. There's just so much. Also, why do the bad guys got to go after the trees? Come on. Melkor
It's
stabbing
always the trees.
the trees with his spear,
Mm-hmm.
letting Ungoliant drink from the sap.
Mm-hmm. What does Sauron do with the trees?
I don't remember.
Sauron cutting down all the trees around.
Frickin' Sauron.
What's it called?
That one is Isengard,
Isengard.
the Tower of Orthanc.
Mm-hmm. The evil people hate the trees.
They hate trees. And that's too bad, because the trees are, first of all, great. Second of all, they get their comeuppance. The Ents, they're like, hey, we're going to get you. And they do.
It's true.
Although I don't think the Ents are related to the trees at all.
Good question.
I'm
To be explored in another episode.
Sure. Yeah, that does not need to come up now. Okay. The 25th king of Numenor is Ar-Pharazôn. I think they could do like a whole season on Ar-Pharazôn. I think that there are going to be 5 seasons. I was looking up information on the Amazon, whatever. In any case, when Ar-Pharazôn takes the throne, it is because his uncle dies. One of the last elven or elvish named kings, Tar-Palantir,
I'd believe that.
the Farsighted.
Mm-hmm.
And in any case, Tar-Palantir's daughter is forced to marry Ar-Pharazôn. So that's creepy. And I think that would be an interesting dynamic to get to see in the show, is this daughter of the last like true and good king of Numenor, who gets to see the end
Mm-hmm.
of Numenor, this kind of bridge from the righteous to the fallen. She is renamed because Ar-Pharazôn does not allow her to keep her elvish name, and I think she takes it's not like a shitty name. It's like Zephim. I don't remember. Zephaniah, really?
No, I have no idea about that.
I think it starts with a Z. And in any case, they don't talk about it too much, other than like it was against her will. And I think those figures are very important in Lord of the Rings. The figures of like the righteous who hold on through the bad times to the good. And so I'm not exactly sure, like I don't remember any significant things that she did. However, like that character seems very important to me,
Mm-hmm.
of kind of a remnant of righteousness.
Yeah. And I think so Tolkien includes a lot of really dark stuff in his writings, especially in the Silmarillion. And for anyone who's seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like, yeah, there's a lot of dark stuff in there, but it's like,
Would you say it's tame?
yeah, I'd say it's tame. I'd say it's PG-13. Like, there's violence. You see people die, but not necessarily to the point of
Not
actually...
to the Game of Thrones point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like the true level of horror that exists in this world,
Yeah.
as people are just like tortured to unbearable levels by Sauron and Melkor,
Indeed.
and like you have, like you mentioned, forced marriages
Yeah,
between family members.
there's like an almost situation of that with like Grima Wormtongue and Eowyn,
mm-hmm.
but it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the Second Age, it happened.
Yeah. And like, if anyone's curious about another disturbing story from the Silmarillion, just read about Children of Hurin. Long story short,
I don't know if that's from the. Isn't that its own book?
it is, but that's basically an expansion of the story from the Silmarillion. Long story short, a brother and sister accidentally marry each other, and then both of them die.
The end.
Yeah, honestly.
No, there are many sad things that happen before that too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I love the idea of being like, hey, if you're in the mood to read some disturbing content,
Yeah.
be advised. Content warnings include murder, incest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, then the other figure that I was going to talk about was the second queen of Numenor, whose name was Tar Telperion. I know. Tar
Named
Telperion.
after that tree, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Telperion.
Exactly. So Tar Telperion was the second queen of Numenor, and she did not marry, and she did not carry on her line. She did not assist the humans across the water.
Against Sauron.
And I think that like that's mostly all of what's spoken about her, that the things she did not do. But something I think about a lot is choice. The choices we make and the choices we don't make. And when we do not act, that is also a choice. And, you know, it makes me think about Queen Elizabeth, how she did not marry. She was married to England and that sort of thing. And that was a big deal, that she didn't take a husband to be the king, like that sort of thing. And so I think that this could be a fascinating character to explore, of like her righteousness, you know, especially too, like being named after that tree. Did it come from a place of weakness and complacency, or did it come from a place of we need to protect ourselves from the evil that is out in the world? You know, the protection of a mother figure, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. That'd be a good one. Well, anything else?
Also, I want to see the death of Celebrimbor.
Ooh. Talk more about that.
Okay. He is captured by Sauron and his forces and tortured. We were referencing that torture earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He is tortured because Sauron wants to know, where are the Elven Rings?
Where are the Elven Rings?
Yeah, that was close.
Where are the Elven Rings?
Celebrimbor.
Where are the Elven Rings? Where are the Elven Rings?
You're getting closer.
Where are the Elven Rings?
Yeah, that was it. And so Sauron it says, where are the Elven Rings? And Celebrimbor does not say. At least I don't think so.
Nope.
He doesn't say. And for that act, he is shot full of arrows. He is driven through a spike, and he is paraded around like a banner.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrible. Celebrimbor, we mentioned Feanor earlier, who was an elf during the First Age, like one of the most powerful elves ever to live, who created the Silmarils. His sons vowed this oath
Oh my god!
to win back the Silmarils from whoever would withhold them from them as the rightful owners.
Kinslaying!
Exactly. And so there were plenty of times where they did terrible, terrible things, murdering other elves because of this oath that they had to keep. Celebrimbor was an offspring of Feanor. He was of that lineage. And so he possessed similar mastery in the forging of precious items, which is kind of why he was the vessel for Sauron to pass on his.
Ooh, do you think that
Mastery of
Sauron like
ringcraft.
targeted Celebrimbor, or was that just a coincidence?
I think so. I think he targeted him.
Oh man, I'm excited to see this show.
Yeah.
There's so much potential, and I think if they do it well and dive into the characters and not just like the written text, they could make it like they could bring it to life in a way that I imagine is what kept people from trying to capture the Silmarillion in the past
What do you mean by that?
on film.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it cost them $250 million just to win the bid for the rights from the Tolkien estate to make this series,
Lol.
which just from that makes it the most expensive TV series ever made. And that's without even starting one
That was like back in 2017.
step of the production. Somewhere around there.
They've been working on it for a while.
So, yeah, I mean, it's Amazon. They've
Is
got the resources to do it justice.
True. Is it set to come out this year?
It is. I wouldn't be surprised if it was postponed, but I do believe that they're filming now and have gone through the steps to be able to bring all their actors and production team into New Zealand to make the series.
Yeah, pre-production takes forever, which is important because you want to have everything prepared, which The Hobbit did not. Okay, to wrap up, do you have one hard pass? Things you don't, a thing you don't want to see.
I should have prepared.
I'm springing this on Aaron as I'm springing it on myself too.
Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, for sure.
Say it.
Okay, I'm gonna say it right now.
Okay,
Here I go.
great.
I don't care about.
Let me stop you there.
All right.
And the reason I'm stopping you, Alex, is because just after mulling over the question that you just asked,
Sure.
it's getting some cogs and wheels turned in my brain.
Both.
Yeah, and as that happens, like the gears are spinning too. And so what ultimately what that leads to is the formation of this idea that I'm about to tell you about. And
I'm excited for it.
yeah, as you should be. As you should be. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I'm here to support you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, definitely. So in terms of things that I don't want to see, I think that what my mind tends to go to would be, and this might be a rabbit hole, so just stop me if this is kind of, giving you a little bit of a whiplash.
I'll stop you when I get whiplash.
Yeah, great, thanks. Because we've gone on a lot of tangents tonight, wouldn't you say?
We've gone on 7 tangents.
Yeah, at least. One for each Dwarf Lord.
I think so.
And so ultimately, I think that pretty much sums up how I'm feeling.
I was going to stop you. And then I was like, that's not what I want to see. In the Amazon Lord of the Rings. Actually, I don't want them to call it the Lord of the Rings. That doesn't make sense at that point.
Uh-huh. What do you think they'll call it? That's a great question.
I would love if they called it... Man. Actually, I don't know if I would love if they called it the Silmarillion.
Mm-hmm. I think what I don't want to see is them getting so far away from the source material that it's just set in the same universe, but you don't really encounter any of the people or plot lines that you're expecting to.
Yeah.
I do want to see stuff that's specifically mentioned already.
For sure. I think I figured out the thing I don't want to see. I love the idea of seeing Elrond, but in the context of his relationships to the people of that time. I would love the idea of seeing Galadriel because she is in the Second Age. She was born during the time of the trees. I would not love to see a lot of Galadriel. And I think like I want to experience like new characters that we have not seen before. Galadriel's super cool. I've kind of seen enough of her already, maybe. Maybe that's a hot take that's not shared.
That's hot.
Thank you. But yeah, I want to see more new characters rather than like, oh, did you know that also Elrond was here and also Galadriel was here? It's like, yeah, I get it. They're elves.
Uh-huh. I'm not necessarily with you there because I think there's a lot of really good, as you mentioned, being interested in relational stuff.
Sure.
Or specific, not necessarily relational, but like character development to explore with Galadriel. And that when she left Valinor to come to Middle-earth, she was in search of establishing her own realm and wanting to be a great ruler of her own rather than just kind of living under the shadow of more powerful beings.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So I think it would be worth it if they dispelled some of what you don't like about the portrayal of Galadriel, which is that she's so distant and aloof and kind of next level, and actually show her flaws.
Not evil, but beautiful. Yeah, that's my one thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
Well, this time actually has flown by.
It has. This is going to be a long podcast. I don't know.
This is huge. I was like, maybe we'll have 30 minutes
Don't
of
worry.
material.
We'll edit it down.
Okay. This has been a pleasure. I hope that this has been at least a soothing podcast to listen to with our deeper voices.
Our?
Yeah, I included you in that.
Where are the rings?
Okay. My deep voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope you're getting as pumped as we are to see this show.
Thank you all for listening. We'll have more content coming at you very shortly.
Where's that outro music? Dum bum 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 bum. That is good exit music. This is a good part.
Sleep with one eye open, clutching your pillow tight. Never let go.
It's just how I remember it. Just how my mom used to sing it to me when I would go to bed.